This is an amazing look, I swear to God. This is definitely one of them videos where I have looked back and gone, the hell was I thinking? So yet again, it's time for me to rant about something, and this is definitely not going to get the approval of the majority, but like I say in most of my videos, do you think I give a shit? You see, the reason I'm doing a video about this topic is because it is kind of one that's really controversial, actually, and not many people have bothered to look into it. They just assume that they stand on the right platform, and I've got to admit the majority don't on this front. As you might well have guessed by the title of this video, it is to do with making drugs legal. This is something which I've called for before quite a few times now, and it's been my opinion for quite a while. This is kind of a controversial topic because the majority of people world over have this opinion that drugs means something bad is going to happen. These are also the same people that will go out binge drinking. They will take drugs to try and make themselves feel better that are prescribed by the doctor for them. In fact, most people will have coffee or tea, knowing that it contains caffeine, but not a lot of people know that caffeine is a drug. And in most countries around the world where drugs are known of and spoken about in governments, it usually comes on a classification system. Now here in the UK, they swap the drugs around near enough on a daily basis as to what they're actually classified. Now normally the classification would go on things like, you know, how addictive a drug is, the damage that it can cause. And my concern isn't so much to do with the effects of a certain drug, it's to do with why people don't have the choice to take them in the first place. This video could go on for quite some time because this is a really long subject, because I've got loads of information to give out to you guys. And like I said, this video is just my opinion. If it's not your opinion, that's fine. But you need to kind of listen to what I've got to say on this front. You see, for so many years now, drugs have been on this classification system. You know, I can't name the amount of times that marijuana here in the UK has been, you know, a B drug, Class C, Class D, whatever it is. I think at the moment it currently stands that you can have up to a certain amount on you. I think it's about £50 worth. And then anything over that is then classed as you're going to be supplying it to someone, so you can face charges. But if you are found with something like under £50, then you're normally just given a little bit of a telling off, but no action can legally be taken against you. But here's my problem with it. You see, the classification system does go on things like how addictive a drug is, the side effects of it, and what effect it has on people when it's taken. But you see, when the classification system came in, it was done by supposedly scientists who made studies on these drugs. Now, there was a government advisor who was a very good scientist himself, who came out with his own version of drug classification. And it kind of actually made sense, because he put things like tobacco and caffeine in quite high categories. I know a lot more people addicted to smoking and drinking coffee and alcohol than I do people who have to smoke marijuana every single day. And in certain parts of the world, they have laws. I know that Canada is one of them, because I've met people who have it. But things like marijuana are given out on prescription because doctors over there believe that it can help. You know, like pain relief and that sort of thing. And it genuinely can. But you see, this is where I come up with the problem that I've got. You see, many, many, many moons ago, even alcohol was illegal. And when alcohol was talked about becoming legal before it actually did, the amount of protests that took place, it was unbelievable, because people were saying, people are going to get addicted to this, it will cause deaths, this can't be good. Now, we all know what the world is like at the moment with alcohol legal. Okay, yes, there are countries that are clean, you know, they won't have any alcohol in the country. There are states in America that are dry states, but, you know, whatever. We can genuinely see the problems that we have with alcohol, and in certain places the problems that we don't have with alcohol. But alcohol still remains legal, and that's kind of a little bit confusing for me, because I've got a problem with that. You see, statistically speaking, we have the National Health Service in the UK, and more money actually gets spent on people who have drunk too much, can't handle their drink, that sort of thing, than people who are high on drugs. Now, people, when you talk to them about legalising drugs, seem to come up with the same kind of arguments against it. You know, when they say things like, oh, too many people are going to get addicted to it, it'll lead to deaths, it will lead to whatever. Well, this society that we live in at the moment, aren't we supposed to be able to choose what we want to do? You know, like, they're not forcing alcohol on us, so why would they force drugs on it if we were to make it legal for people to take drugs? People often say about, you know, how making drugs legal can only be a bad thing. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you might be ignoring the big elephant in the room there, which is the fact that we have got a black market, and this is world over. And it's a black market around drugs and, you know, full of drug dealers. If you decided to look into this topic, which there is loads of studies about on Google and that sort of thing, then you would actually find this black market that we've got at the moment can be dealt with. But how can it be dealt with? It can be dealt with by making drugs legal. How could making drugs legal get rid of this black market? Well, at the end of the day, I wouldn't have to go and see, I don't know, name someone random, John, who lives down the road, who, you know, he's got a contact that's got a contact that's got a contact that does drugs. I would legally be able to go into certain stores and purchase drugs. These are also drugs that the government or store or anything like that could make sure this is the real deal. You know, it wouldn't be watered down. You know, if I was going to buy a bag of cocaine, I could be certain when buying it in a store that it's not just crushed up paracetamol tablets or talcum powder or whatever the hell they put in it. A little interesting fact while I talk about things that are in drugs these days, one of my mother's friends used to be a drug counsellor, and she was telling me that back in the 60s and 70s, drugs were a lot better than they were today. And it's actually quite common these days to find like bits of plastic in marijuana, as people would buy it thinking this is marijuana. And another little kind of interesting fact here is that cocaine is actually a yellow coloured drug. But by the time it's been watered down and filtered that many times, people on the street actually think it is white, but it's not. Anyway, I digress. So, yes, this thing, making drugs legal could work in that it gets rid of the black market because people will be buying it from official retailers. Now, the other thing that goes with that is the fact that near enough world over, the governments are struggling to make ends meet. You know, that's just a granted fact. But if governments were to put taxes onto drugs, they could make an income off it. Now, a lot of people are going to say a government should not be making money that way. Well, I hate to break it to you. Have you ever looked into how many taxes are paid once you die? Seriously, there is loads of tax. You know, if you own your own property, well, it can be known that up to 45% of your property, once it's sold after your death, will actually go in tax. You know, there are taxes on funerals. There are taxes on alcohol. Well, alcohol is a killer. You know, the government tax a lot of things that do lead to death. So I'm sorry, but your argument of saying the government shouldn't be doing that because it will lead to death, that's not a valid argument. There is so many things that I could keep going on about at the moment, but I genuinely do not have the time to go through it all in this video. The only thing that I can say to you is that this is a genuine topic that does need to be looked into by yourself, and you need to come to your own conclusion. But just simply stating that you disagree with drugs being made legal when you haven't looked into this topic, well, that's kind of a little bit of small-mindedness and maybe ignorance on your part. Let's put it this way. Alcohol is legal, and alcohol is a drug. Alcohol does lead to deaths. So why would you be of the opinion that alcohol is fine to be legal in most places around the world or wherever, yet things like drugs or, you know, like ketamine, cocaine, speed, marijuana, whatever, that's okay to not be legal? Well, why? Thank you once again for watching this video. I don't know why I said once again, because I haven't actually thanked you for watching it at all at the moment, but Like I said, this is a topic that not a lot of people are going to agree with, so I'm quite sure there will be a number of thumbs down below. But do your own research into this topic and come to your own conclusion, but don't just be ignorant to the fact that you disagree with it when you haven't bothered looking into this topic at all. Thank you. Went up. You see it? That's so good. I did do this video with like literally next to nothing on. I have a blazer and a top, but no top underneath. That's my nipple, not a Rolo.